which is going to be the last webinar of Sunday. We started in the morning at 9:30, if you recall. 9:30 to 11, we had a webinar. Then we had the second program. The first webinar was Vidya Se Adhyatam Vidya Ki Aur, and that is the integrative journey, what we have got from the education to the ultimate education of life. And then we had 11:30, a very big deliberations. And today we had the technical know-how in cinematic tourism and media entertainment industry. And this evening, 5 o'clock, we had a very important webinar on micro, small, and medium enterprise, where we took care of the services sector. And we talked about the global perspective, Asian perspective, Indian perspective. And it was about a 1 hour, 20 minutes webinar completely on micro, small, and medium enterprise. And this is the fourth webinar of the Sunday. And we extend a very warm welcome because every Sunday evening is dedicated to our Indian diaspora, brothers and sisters, those are across the globe in different countries. So non-resident Indian diaspora, they for Indian education empowerment. Today we have got, through the efforts of Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji, our advisor to the Chamber in the United States, we have got a very distinguished guest, Professor Irfan Ahmed ji, and he is the Associate Professor Marketing, Sam Houston State University, and that is, in Texas, in United States. And today's subject is next to my heart because there's a lot which we would like to pick up. We would like to learn, that is quality in services, because everybody talks about it. And we are talking about some reflections. So a lot of people, those are from the tourism industry, hospitality industry, restaurant industry, those are from media entertainment industry, and a couple of other services sector components. They all have joined this program today. And I just spoke to them a little while before, and they are eagerly looking forward to this particular webinar, their deliberation discussions, and getting the best possible input from all of us. So ladies and gentlemen, let me just move on. On behalf of International Chamber for Service Industry, we extend a very warm welcome. Way back in 1994, we started having get-together, confluence, whatever you can talk about, podlocking of the ideas and everything of the non-resident Indian in India. And it started from a particular state. And in 2003, after 10 years, the then Honorable Prime Minister of India, late Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, he gave Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and that is on 9th of January. And we started initially on 13th of January. And today there's a beautiful linkage with all our brothers and sisters. When we talk about services, I wish to share with you that in India, 12 components were identified by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, where we were the part of the entire deliberation, discussions, strategy, innovation, white paper, action plan, concept paper, and finally it got the approval of the Honorable Prime Minister. And thereafter we moved on to Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, and all the components, important components of services sector. Total Chamber is working on 52 areas of service industry components, but 12 sectors were identified by Government of India, and we want to give focus on that. During the COVID, a lot of challenges are there, difficulties are there, but what we learned from our ancestors and from our forefathers, it's a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, all of us, we are together. Heartiest thanks and gratitudes and congratulations to Honorable Prime Minister of India, that 29th of July 2020, he gave the green signal, and that's why we have taken over here in the Greens, New Education Policy 2020, and that came back in India on 29 July. At present, a lot of deliberations, discussion, couple of things are going on. And during this pandemic, there are a lot of things to learn. You got to skill yourself, you got to upskill yourself, you got to reskill yourself, and there's going to be a lifelong learning. And then we came on key reforms for the education sector in the budget. 1st of February 2021, Honorable Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharamanji, when she highlighted the budget, there was a 9.5% increase in the education sector. And here are the main highlights which we have got of that particular budget 2021. Honorable Prime Minister's vision, Atmanirbhar Bharat, that we got to become self-reliant. Now, during this corona, I also lost my friend, Sir Ken Robinson. And always he used to talk about, and we used to discuss about it, what is the purpose of education? Why education? And do we really need formal education? Or should we have a home-based education, community education, cluster education, and, you know, some of the people getting together and expertise getting together, and that kind of a formal, you know, you can develop the different communities and you can work out on that. Yes. Parents' expectations are that my child should start earning after a particular age. There's a economic purpose, there's a social purpose, there's a cultural purpose, and every child has got their personal perception also. There's a personal purpose. Dr. Sugata Mitra, again, another giant, you know, I'm sure a lot to learn from him. The more you get in touch with him, a lot of things I picked up from him. And the evolution of learning environment, when I talk about, and there he talks about, can kids teach themselves? Because right in his hometown, at one particular corner in village, he put in one wall, 2 computers, no teacher, only camera on the top. After 1 month, oh my God, mind-blowing outputs. The children, how do they pick up at their own? Now, with the new education policy, education is learning-centric, vocational education is more important, training of the teachers and educators is very important. Skills have become more important than acquiring knowledge, because that you can pick up from various sources. Soft skills post-pandemic, very important. Life skills, very important. Lifelong learning, very important. There are some core competencies which are to be taken. Youth empowerment is very important. More than that is in the new education policy now, there's a 50 hours compulsory training every year for all principals and all teachers. Teacher empowerment, hand-holding is very, very important. So if you want to be a best educator, and if you want to be a wonderful human being, then we got to work out a strategy. There got to be a corporate connect in education when we talk about, because education cannot be taken in isolation. We will talk about where are the jobs in coming times. Let's not play with the kids. We should be very, very clear about it. And we should not commit to them something which cannot be delivered. So thereby, are they going to be a technical jobs? Are they going to be highly skilled jobs? Are there going to be more focus on entrepreneurship? And something very wisely being done, that the separate ministry which has been established by, besides the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Skill Development, and the second portion is more important, and entrepreneurship. Because children got to go for startup, they got to go for entrepreneurship, because there is going to be a feeble and a very less jobs in the coming time. More startups, very important. And something, somebody asked me the question at the end of the last webinar. I wish to tell you, as per the definition in India which has been given, anybody who has started any company, any corporate, anything, and if you are in a business for last 10 years, you should not be more than 10 years in the business, and your company turnover should not be more than 100 crores, then only you can be considered in startup. Somebody asked me this question, so I thought I should clarify it to you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a new minister now who has taken over. And this I recall still, you know, when we had been submitting the documents from time to time to Ministry of MSME, Micro, Small, Medium Enterprise, that why don't we bring services at par with the manufacturing sector? Because traditionally, everybody was knowing MSMEs only for manufacturing. And about 3.5 years, we have been going in the corridors. I still recall meeting ministers, meeting educators, meeting Secretary Dr. Pandaji, meeting Additional Secretary and Development Commissioner Ramon Mishraji, and their entire team, and whatever documents they have been asking. So the most meaningful day for our chamber was 13th of May 2020, when Nirmala Sitharamanji announced that now onward, services sector will be at par with manufacturing sector in India. Now, our request to the new minister, Mr. Rane, who has just taken over, along with his state minister, we extend a very warm welcome to them. And we tell over there got to be a pan-India awareness of service industry, what is needed. That's what we have to take. And Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, they are doing great job. There are 37 sector skill councils in India with the NSDC. They are doing wonderful. We have done about 100 plus webinars with the entrepreneurship and startups CEO. Then we had gone to media entertainment industry with him, the CEO. We have done about 100 webinars. Then the wellness, very, very important post-pandemic and during pandemic, mental wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, environmental wellness, your economic wellness, that is also very important, which you have to take care of. Technology is going to transform everything, and edtech platforms are becoming very important. And all the time we say from our chamber, why don't we teach what is relevant to my day-to-day living, my life, my breath? I'm saying in the morning when I get up until I go to sleep, like after this webinar. So whatsoever I have done during the day, whatsoever activity and actions have been taken, why education is not relevant to that, whether my research or my innovation, my creativity, my collaboration, whatsoever you talk. And do you know, there is no price tag on one thing in life, and that is called peace of mind. How do you get that? Why don't we get music in education, dance, games, happiness, humor, fun, creativity, curiosity, storytelling, stimulation, passion, talent exhibition, stress-free education, technology-based education, vocational and skill-based education, outdoor, that is nature-based education. We are proud to share that we brought India's first finishing school and the finishing lab for teachers and youth in India in 1994 for service industry. Our focus was tourism, hospitality, airlines, media entertainment, where we had radio, television, theater, music, films, animation, whatsoever you can talk about. Over here, we had communication, we had collaboration, we had creativity, we had critical thinking, and we had continuous learning. And now Niti Aayog is doing a great job. Atal Tinkering Lab, incubation centers, they are setting up throughout India in various institutions. Similar way, humble baby steps by our chamber also, free of cost during Corona. We are giving the finishing labs. We are giving for soft skills and life skills and inspirational skills. This is something vocational teacher training in our finishing school. We are proud of our teachers and youth. We have dedicated our entire services for teacher and youth empowerment and to the services sector empowerment. And we strongly believe that education and skills have got no purpose unless there is a direct opening. And we have written across to the new Education and Skill Minister of India, no grant should be given to any college or any university without seeing what is the outcome. And the children, those are passing out from there, are they getting any employment? Are they becoming entrepreneur? Is there any startup? And every college and every university to keep a data of those students for at least 1 year. That's called tracking. And we should know. Then only India can become self-reliant. And we are organizing almost 28 webinars per week. All the sectors, all the factors, whatsoever is relevant, we are trying to cover. So ladies and gentlemen, also now we are moving in the particular direction because we believe we just had Guru Purnima and Ved Vyas Purnima and everything what we talk about. The ideal education is to remove the ignorance and basically to provide the desired knowledge and competencies. And that is the only thing which is going to take us to the global peace. B2B is no more business to business. It is back to basics of life, basic food, basic health, basic education, earn and learn. And finally, whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, let's get together. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Not for yourself. What are you doing for others? So ladies and gentlemen, we extend a very warm welcome to Professor Irfan Ahmed ji, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji. This evening is dedicated to non-resident Indians because every Sunday we bring a program to you from and with the help of their intellectual capital. And today we are going to talk about quality in services. and we will talk about some reflections. Professor Dr. Irfan Ahmed ji, he is the Associate Professor of Marketing at the Sam Houston State University, Texas. Prior to this, he had been on the faculty of Texas A&M University and the University of Alaska. Now, most important to my heart, what Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji has motivated me, that Professor Ahmed focuses on services marketing, marketing strategy, and macro marketing. We would cover up these three areas. Our focus would be that, keeping in context with India, and people, those who have joined this particular program as audience, they are from education fraternity, they are from skill fraternity, they are from tourism, hospitality, and airline industry, and also some of them are from media, entertainment industry, all being part of services sector. Professor Dr. Ahmed, he received a Ph.D. in marketing from Texas A&M University and a postgraduate diploma in management from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He has several years experience in advertising industry. He had been a consultant to a large corporations, small businesses, and the government and the non-profit organization, with a focus on areas of market research, service quality, and customer satisfaction. And of course, strategic planning also. I will take on the note of that also. We will take on strategic planning. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, he has served on the editorial board of the academic journals and currently serves as the editor of the Journal of the Applied Business Cases. He has been having the honor with the Outstanding Marketing Educator Award by the Federation of Business Discipline and the Distinguished Educator Award by the Association of Indian Management Scholars. With these words, join me in extending a very warm welcome to both the dignitaries, those who have joined us. Pleasure to have both of you, Dr. Ahmed, Irfan ji, and also Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji. Like every Sunday, let's start with a little prayer, and thereafter, I would request Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji to set a context where we talk about services marketing, marketing strategy, macro marketing, and strategic planning. Those areas we will cover up in this particular program. With these words, in the safe hands of Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji and Professor Irfan Ahmed ji.
Vagartavyo samprukto vagartah patipatteye jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwara. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good morning to all of you and good evening if you are in Bharat. First of all, we should start on a silver note. We have to be very happy because one of the priority areas for the chamber, and I know especially for the Prime Minister and all, is the northeast part of India, the Ashtalakshmi as they call it. And we should be very proud that Meeraji has got the silver medal. And so we wish more medals to come in the Indian Olympics. But so we are very proud. And especially given that it comes from Northeast. Last week when we had the prize distribution, with the scholarship, we chose Madam Noidu from northeast part of India, Manipur. So again, so we should be very happy. So that's a silver note I want to start this on. Now, coming to the subject of service quality, I just want to talk a little bit about my good friend Irfan Ahmed. Irfan is a veteran. In fact, he has the one thing I told him that the three of us share a connection is, of course, Gulshanji is based out of Chandigarh. I received my MBA from PU Chandigarh. Irfan has spent 1 year in Chandigarh before he got an admission. He went to IIM Ahmedabad. So he also has Chandigarh quasi roots, if not full roots. And he's also a second generation academic. His father was a professor of mathematics at Osmania University. And his daughter is also a teacher. His son is doing a PhD. So I think he is going to have three generations of academics, PhDs. And so his wife is a teacher. His daughter is a teacher. So very, very clued in, is a multi-generational educated family. So, it's always good to have him. We have cerebral conversations. We may not always agree. Our persuasions on certain topics are very different, but that doesn't mean we really seek friendship. And so we meet very regularly, and especially at Starbucks and spend. So he's one of the reasons I have a loyalty program with Starbucks, because I consume a lot of coffee chatting with him. Now, coming to the subject of Irfan's intellectual training, I mean, he is trained under, as Professor Sheth mentioned, Dr. Jagdish Sheth mentioned about some time back, the leaders, the top researchers in marketing, services marketing, is Professor Parshuraman, who is one of the three founders of the people who wrote the seminal article on service quality. So Irfan has engaged at that level with scholars in services. And Lynn Berry was also at Texas A&M. So he has worked with both of them. He's also studied under Professor Rajan Varadarajan, who used to be editor of Journal of Marketing, one of the gurus in the area of marketing strategy. So he has received a full round training, but he has also studied under some of the brightest minds in Indian marketing at the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And so no wonder, given the extensive amount of rigor they put on the case study methodology, he is a case teacher par excellence. He is a case educator. He has served as the president of the Southwest Case Research Association, and that's where he got the Distinguished Educator Award. And he himself edits a case journal. So he has a lot of these skill sets, and but a very, very, as they say, the proverb goes, empty vessels make more noise. So he's a very quiet man. So that tells you how much profound knowledge he has. Very quiet, and so it takes a while. So he doesn't, but he's not even active on YouTube like many of the other people. So I told him, hey, this is your maiden YouTube performance. You better dress for the part. And so being an advertising guy, I'm sure he will have something. So I don't want to take too much time away. We're going to request Irfan to talk a little bit about the whole idea of services and quality, and why measuring quality in services is a challenge, and how does the ServQual approach overcome that. And from that, I really want to go on to a subject that Professor Sheth talked about. If India has to really make a lot of leapfrog, a lot of in the services area, we need good certification programs. So I just wanted him to also tie into certifications, and with that, that will be giving us a more a topic for another conversation. I said, if you're a good speaker, you never sell everything in one shot. You have to always, keep them coming. What in marketing we call as relationship marketing. Don't consummate the whole thing with one transaction. Develop a relationship. So that's my request to Irfan. Without much ado, request Irfan Ahmed to take the stage, virtual stage, and sir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Namaskar, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, for inviting me. It's very nice to be joining this series of panels that you've organized, and I feel quite honored following in the footsteps of luminaries like Professor Jagdish Sheth. And also thank you, Vivek, for inviting me to talk to you. So the service industry has been one of my passions, and it was, way back in '88 when I was looking for a program to do Ph.D. And again, I had a career in advertising at the time, but there was something that kept pulling me to academia. So maybe it was an inherited love for, knowledge seeking and exploring knowledge or what, I don't know. Anyway, so quite by chance, I ended up at Texas A&M University to start my PhD in 1989. And those were days, most of you will remember, when coming to the US was a long drawn process. So I won't go into it, but it was, I would say, a series of fortuitous circumstances which led me to end up there and come under the tutelage of great minds and thinkers and researchers like Professor Parasuraman and Dr. Berry and Dr. Rajan Varadarajan and a few others. So it's again, I really appreciate being here, and I would like to share a few thoughts with you on the subjects that Vivek talked about. So the work that you're doing, Dr. Sharma, is really wonderful. Gone through several of your videos, and the scope and the breadth of the task that you've set for yourselves is really something that is very, very laudable. And I think more and more of us should get involved in this initiative that you're pursuing, and contribute to the development of the service sector, and bringing it to its full potential. So if you don't mind, I will share a screen, and I have, again, these are some of my thoughts over many years of dealing with the services, marketing and quality field. And I'd like to begin that with, let me go over the slides first, and then we can have maybe a question and answer session or discussion among yourselves and me. And if there are any questions, I don't know how you're taking the questions from the audience that's working, but if there are, I'll be happy to talk about, answer the questions. So
Irfan,
quality, yes.
Irfan, there is always a very passionate brigade that asks a lot of good questions. So we are never shortage of. There's never a shortage of good questions.
That's always
So
wonderful.
go on.
Yes, wonderful. So let me go over, again, these are my personal thoughts. This is not an extensive literature review. We do that in the rest of our lives. So this is more of a general, a sharing of thoughts and ideas to supplement in a small way what Dr. Sharma and the ICSI are doing. So let me go ahead and go through this presentation. Okay, so the service industry has become a predominant employer in most economies. And Dr. Sharma, I really applaud your effort to have it recognized on par with manufacturing. I think in India, the realization came late, and I'm really happy that you took the initiative to spearhead this move to recognize the service industry, because the common thinking is of the service industry as just something on the side. Now, manufacturing always has been, or not, I wouldn't say always, but since the Industrial Revolution, manufacturing has taken center stage. So if you look at the distinctions made by economists in terms of the sectors, you have the primary sector, which is land-based. So this includes all the agricultural and extractive industries, things that you do with the land to produce value. And then comes the industrial sector. That was the second phase, which was, of course, brought on by the Industrial Revolution. And then there was the tertiary sector, what's called the tertiary sector, which is the services sector, which was, as the name suggests, considered pretty much a sideline. It was not considered a major sector in and of itself. However, what's the reality is that in many economies, we have reached a stage of what's called the post-industrial society. Okay, so post-industrial society, meaning that manufacturing is no longer center stage. Yes, we still need to pay attention to the primary sector. We still need to grow our food. We still need to mine our materials and minerals and so forth, and our fuels. So the primary sector has not gone away. Okay, the industrial sector also has not gone away and will not go away. Now, what has happened is that in terms of employment, if you notice, because of efficiencies brought about by the Industrial Revolution, the usage of labor in the primary sector has gone down. Okay, meaning that a field that would take 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals to cultivate can now be cultivated by one person with the help of machinery. Right. So the employment potential of the primary sector has gone down. Likewise, back in the day, people used to go down into coal mines, and coal was a major employer, and that's no longer the case. Okay, with the help of technology, a lot of that labor has been rendered surplus. So the industrial sector, of course, absorbed a lot of that excess labor. Okay, so if you look at, for example, the history of the United States, one of the things that happened, those in the US would know this, and those outside would find this interesting, was that somewhere around the 1920s and 30s, when the farm implements and farm machinery became popular and was made available, was adopted on a large scale, a lot of labor was rendered surplus. Right. So what did they do? Well, they migrated to the cities of the north, and that's how the the industrial growth of the United States took place, because a lot of the labor that was rendered surplus migrated to the industrial sector. Now, the industrial sector has also reached its what I would say peak employment, probably surpassed it. So again, what's contributing to it? It's the fact that you have, automation, you have artificial intelligence, robotics, you have much greater efficiencies in the industrial sector. So the employment potential of the industrial sector has also gone down. Okay, so then we come to the tertiary sector, the third sector, which is the service sector. And that's where what I'm going to focus on and talk about the challenges and so forth. So it is a predominant employer. If you put the organized and unorganized service sector together, I'm pretty sure in most countries it outweighs the potential of the industrial and primary sectors in terms of employment. And we are seeing this, in India, where because of pressures on the land and division of the land holdings, and also, of course, mechanization, the ability of the land to absorb employment or provide employment capacity has gone down tremendously. Okay, so that is why in Punjab, for example, because of that, you have this exodus of young people leaving because they can no longer find productive, employment on their family farms or their hereditary properties, and that's causing this exodus of people leaving for foreign countries. So in either case, it is a dominant foreign exchange earner for many countries. It's a contributor to quality of life. We don't think of the service sector as a contributor to quality of life, but it very much is. And if you look at the sectors that Dr. Sharma has identified, imagine your life without the production or the productive activity of tourism, of music, of arts, of healthcare, and so on and so forth. So where would our quality of life be without the productivity and the product of and the services of all those sectors? So, excuse me. We don't think about this, but like I said, all the service sectors that enrich our lives, what would happen if they started collapsing in on themselves? Okay, our lives would be, as consumers, would be seriously diminished. We're not just consumers of products. It's not just things that make us happy. It's not just things that make our life what it is. Okay, so other than that, things that have happened which make the service sector all the more important are two trends which have been at the forefront of research in the past 20 years: servitization and service dominant logic. So servitization essentially talks about how even for businesses producing products, the service component is important. And the service dominant logic is to think of any business, whether it's a farming business or whether it's a manufacturing business, primarily as serving customers, okay? Which is what any business is all about. Really, in the end, you are serving your customers. So the movement of recognition of servitization and service dominant logic makes the service sector all the more important. So just quickly going through the quality journeys that my friend Dr. Vivek talked about, you had the product quality, and you had stalwarts like Edward Deming and Juran, and you had the Six Sigma movement and similar other ways of enhancing quality. Then you had the service quality model, which started around the mid 80s and which is still going strong, the GAPS model and ServQual. And I was fortunate to be involved in or to be around when these were being discussed, very hotly in the early 90s, and when they were making their mark. And there's also the overarching organizational quality movement, which was brought out by Tom Peters in Search of Excellence somewhere in the early 80s. The TQM movement, the ISO certification, and the balanced scorecard, and so forth. So these are basically the broad quality journeys that we've been through. The service quality matter, I think this is not even a question worth answering. Of course, it matters. Imagine how much of aggravation our lives have to go through, we have to go through because of poor service quality. Anybody who has had an experience of poor service quality, we complain, we rant, nowadays we go on Twitter to complain. But the point is, it does matter. It matters not only to the businesses, but it matters to the rest of to the community, to the customer, and to society at large. So, aiming for service excellence is, I would say, it is a social cause. Okay, it should be a national cause to aim for service excellence in all fields. Quality is not an accident, and again, I think I may be preaching to the choir here. I'm sure most of our audience knows this. So first of all, it's realizing the importance of quality. And there is, you'd say, well, doesn't everybody realize the importance of quality? No, they don't. And in some cases, unfortunately, quality is seen as an impediment to other goals. Okay, other goals might be short-term profitability. Other goals might be a reluctance to deploy resources, or whatever it might be. Okay, so I would not say that this is universal. It should be. Okay, realizing the importance of quality is the case has been made so many times, it really does not bear repetition, but I'm doing it anyway. Once you realize that, you got to commit to ensuring quality, and this is a managerial commitment, which again does not come about because of various reasons. Designing systems that ensure quality. Again, there are resources that are going to be used up in this. Okay, it's not cheap, but it has its reward, obviously. And that's what a lot of most of the research has found. Designing systems for quality, selecting human resources for quality, and this is where I think the initiatives done by the ICSI and Dr. Sharma are really appreciable. Human resources are again not an accident, and I think the government of India has been realizing this. They don't just come about; they have to be cultivated like any resource. They have to be built up. They have to be managed. They have to be preserved and enhanced through their useful life. So selecting human resources, or I should say developing human resources, implementing quality, actually setting it into motion, and monitoring and continuously improving quality. So anybody who has had a bad experience with an airline, with a coffee shop, with a government department, with any kind of service undertaking, don't you wish you could throw this at them, right? Don't you wish you could tell them, look, this is what you need to do, right? Get your act together. And not just because I'm a paying customer, but because it's a bigger issue. It's almost like as I mentioned, a societal issue to be concerned about quality and deliver excellent quality. Now, I want to move off a little bit about the service industry and talk about two things: the death of services and the reincarnation of services. Okay, so this seems like a very mystical approach to understanding services, but this is where my interest in macro marketing comes in. So what do I mean by death of services? Okay, so services can be directed at customers, persons, or possessions. This is one of the many divisions of services that have come about. So customers, possessions, right? Services which are directed at your possessions, things that you own. Okay, so you have a car and you take it to a mechanic, and the mechanic performs a service on your possession, right? You have a electrical fan, let's say, and that fan stops working. If it's a ceiling fan, you have to call somebody to fix it. So that person comes and fixes it. You have a plumbing problem, or you have an electrical problem in the house, and so on and so forth. So these are services directed at customers' possessions. Now, what's happening with this type of service? Why is it under threat? It's under threat because services which are linked to obsolescing products are in danger. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that a whole range of products have been going obsolete. And here you also have, you don't have just natural obsolescence, meaning things becoming obsolete, but you also have planned obsolescence. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I'm old enough, and I'm sure many of our audience are probably about my age or older, or maybe even a little younger. So we had many of us growing up had a landline telephone, right? You remember it came from the telephone department. It was given to us as part of the connection fee. And that thing was pretty much unbreakable. Okay, first of all, it was very sturdy. Those old black telephones, they're very sturdy. And really nothing much changed with that phone in the last 20 years that I remember using it. Okay. That product, who knows it? I think that was what we got in the 70s when we finally got our phone connection after several years of waiting. Was that probably was a product designed in the 1930s or 40s. I don't think that much had changed from that, from the 1940s until the 1980s or 90s. But what's happening with your current phone, the phones that you have in your pocket? How long will that take? How long will it take for it to go obsolete? How long before Apple stops updating your iOS, or Google stops updating your Android? Or how long before the phone is run out of storage because all the apps that you're adding to it? So what's happening here? What's happening here is that Apple is on a strategy of planned obsolescence, meaning that it introduces iPhone 12, knowing full well that it's going to make that obsolete in about a year or less by the iPhone 13 and 14 and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying here is this. The old phone, or the old S3, the iron that we had, okay, there wasn't much change that happened with it. And when the phone did break down occasionally, and the iron and electrical fan and other things broke down occasionally. So what did we do? We called in a service provider. All right. Now, what do you do if your phone breaks down? You may call a service provider, or you may decide to replace that product because something newer is available. So we had this electric iron for like 30 years that I remember. Okay, and maybe once or twice in its life, it needed service. Now, if that iron today, if we had an iron today and it went, it had problems, especially in the US, I could not find a service provider to service that iron and bring it up to working condition. I simply cannot find it. Okay, I cannot find. So what's happened to all these people who used to repair irons and fans and, at least mobile phones, you've got some repair services. So products are becoming obsolete, and with them are the services. And another thing that is happening is that we have gone into a model of a use and replace, and throw away and replace economy. Many of us, especially the older generation, you remember, we did not throw away things until they absolutely had nothing left in them, right? So what did you do? You fix things, right? You fix things, and you gave business and employment to numerous service professionals who lived off of this economy. Now, what happens today? Something like that goes broke. What do? It's cheaper for you to go ahead and buy a new one, right? And I think that's definitely where the US is right now. So many products you just throw away, even though they might be useful, because you simply cannot find anybody to repair them, or cannot find anybody to repair them in an economical way. Customers, persons, the service-directed customers, persons. The threat to these services is through self-administered services. Okay? So things that you may have asked someone else to do, now you do yourself. Okay, so this again is aided in many ways. Like, for example, there's a lot of personal coaching which is done virtually. Okay, meaning that you may use a virtual coach, so to speak. And I just came across this app. It is Yogi-Fi or something. So what it's doing is it's using artificial intelligence to provide yoga training. Okay, so you put the phone in front of you and you do yoga poses, and if the app analyzes and corrects it using artificial intelligence. So where is your yoga guru? Have you put them out of business? Have you taken away some of their livelihood? Looks like you have, right? So even service directed at your persons, for which you otherwise may have needed service providers, they are under threat. Manufacturing is replacing servicing. That's what I was talking to you about. We've gotten to this throwaway model. Automation and artificial intelligence in service fulfillment is taking up even service industry jobs. So a whole Amazon warehouse does millions and millions of, or Flipkart or whatever, and millions worth of business, but employs 1 or 2 employees. Okay, because a lot of that is done by automation and artificial intelligence. So I just want to, especially for the older folk in this audience, when was the last time you heard the Ruiwala going with his instrument? It sounds like an ektara. He used to go around, right? So I just saw a YouTube video about one of the last of those Dunyas or mattress walas, I think somewhere in central India. And he was talking about how he learned that trade from his father and his grandfather. And he doesn't want to teach this to his children because people are not using, the cotton mattresses, and therefore they don't have a need for. Now, what happens? Those cotton mattresses, Dr. Sharma is from Chandigarh, and I remember they definitely have a much better comfort level than the spring and foam mattresses, right? And once you got that mattress, you'd get the Ruiwala would come around, once a year, and he'd do his job and clean up and everything. And literally until that mattress fell apart, okay, you'd continue to use it. Okay, now what would you do with your spring mattress? Chances are you may repair it. Chances are that you'll throw it away. Okay. Likewise, how many of us have seen the Kalai Wala who used to come once a year and do Kalai on your, your Pital and Tamba vessels? The Churi Wala, okay, sharpening the knives, that trade is going to go away. So what we'll do when you can't get your knife sharpened, if it goes blunt, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it away and go and order another one from Amazon or Flipkart. Your electrician, I think still we have electrical services, but again, for small electrical jobs, this is not happening. Your Darzi, now this we know, okay, we have heralded the availability of ready-made clothes and so forth. So what happens to the person, you used to buy the fabric and then take it to the tailor. And, for 30 plus years, I've been in the US and I do miss my tailor. The reason being that, yes, manufactured products are available, but the tailor used to provide services, not just for the initial creation, but if you had a problem with it, you put on some weight or you lost some weight, you didn't have to throw away that pant. Am I correct, Dr. Sharma? What did you do?
Absolutely.
Right. So
it's
put together all these.
Very amazing. Yeah. Very amazing. You are reminding us so many things.
Right. So these are all professions. Yeah.
In fact, Professor Ahmed, you have made it looks like there used to be a program called Bule Bisre Geet, like you are now reminding of there's a lot of nostalgia you're putting back,
Yes.
You mentioned the Tariwa, the tailor, but I remember this is a perpetual problem, going and getting your jeans altered. Even today, when I go to India, I take a lot of my stuff and get it altered. And I'm willing to pay. In fact, I pay 2x the price I would have paid for a ready-made cloth, but it's still, there's a lot of fun thing interacting with the tailor.
Yes. And then the thing is, you are, when you do that, you are actually helping a small business. Okay, because the people who are manufacturing, we have the mentality of not throwing things away. At least I have that. I'm sure all of us have that. So it's very hard for us to get into this throwaway mode, right? And the fact that I'm trying to talk about, Dr. Vivek, is that these were all small businesses. These were people engaged in historical, traditional services. There was a skill pool involved. There was a skill set involved. And, they were making an honest living doing all these things, right? So I found this, if you have the chance, go watch this movie. Do you remember? This is Jaya Bhaduri.
Janjeer.
Yes, absolutely. And she is what is she?
Chakku churiyan tej karwa lo.
Exactly. Right. So now most of them used to be much less glamorous, but you get the point, right? So in the US, if our kitchen knives goes blunt, I may try to do it myself, sharpening, but really there aren't many places where we can go and get knife sharpened. It's a lot cheaper, in fact, to just throw it away and get a new one. So what did all these things contribute to? Okay, they contributed to employment at the margins. Okay, so many of these these tradespeople did not have education, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have gone into a position. However, they were still able to find employment at the margins of industry or society or whatever. They performed the social utility. Okay, they had a link to tradition. So I don't know how long or how old that tradition of fluffing your mattress is. It's probably a few centuries old. And there was an environmental utility, meaning that each knife that was sharpened and not thrown away meant that you had less solid waste. And we talk about sustainability in this day and age. Okay, the more you throw away and replace, the less sustainable you're making your planet and your country. So services and sustainability, I just want to deal with this a little bit. There was customization by these services. There was repair. There was a delay of disposal, right? So Vivek, if we put on a little weight or lose weight, we could make it work with the darzi. Now, what do? We dispose it, and it goes. Where does it go? It goes into a landfill. Reduce solid waste and also make life more affordable. It just paying a few rupees to get your clothes fixed made life affordable for those who could not just afford to replace things. Even today, maybe things are cheaper. We talk about that, but that's not what's happening for a lot of the population. Okay, so throwing away disposability is not a good model, in my humble opinion. There's a lot of criticism of what's called fast fashion, and fast fashion comes about. I just saw a documentary about what fast fashion industry is doing, the effects of it on pollution in Ludhiana. Okay, there's a lot of textile industry which is producing this cheap fabric and cheap clothing, and the cost of that cheap clothing is that there's a lot of pollution being generated, and of course lives being subjected to not a very good situation. Now, the reincarnation of services. So this is the exciting part, right? Digitally ordered, digitally delivered, digitally enabled. Okay, so this is the new service. Now, this does not mean that the old services have gone away, and I would make a case for preserving both. Okay, so yes, some services, and that some of it is the natural progression of things. You cannot, stop evolution. You cannot stop progress. So digitally ordered, digitally delivered, and digitally enabled services. And again, I don't need to talk to you about this. Okay, so this is your Ubers and your Zomatos and so forth. Okay, so these are your digitally, and that's just the consumer services. Of course, there's a whole lot of business services. Obviously, I'm sure my audience knows about this, so I'm not going to go into that. But that's the reincarnation of services. Okay, and of course, they need a different skill set, and the thing is that it's not going to be very easy to reskill from the old set of services, the dying services, to the reincarnated services. It'll have to be a generational break. Okay, what this means is your local churiwala, if he no longer finds business customers, they cannot reskill themselves and become coders and join the new economy. So there's going to be a generational break. That is just the natural way of things. Trade and services and service skills, we've had that for a long time. Okay, has been a historic supply to the Middle East, as far as I can remember. Okay, there would be ads for air conditioning technicians and mechanics and tailors, and whenever I go to the Middle East, I see pretty much largely Indian contingent in many service jobs. So we've had a historic supply pattern. We did have things like the ITIs, which have trained for a long time, and those have been around since independence. We've had private operators come in and provide things like air conditioner training, electrician training, and a lot of these people really went into they tried to find jobs in the Middle East or overseas. There is a worldwide demand for these skill sets. Okay, now some of this can be delivered sitting within the country, and some of them means that the service provider will have to go. Right, so electricians will have to go to whichever country to apply their trade. And of course, what this means to India is that there's going to be foreign exchange remittances from all those people. So those have been going on for a long time. Now, ICT services, essentially services enabled by information communication technology. India is a leader or second in comparison, and the first is European Union, which of course is a bunch of countries. So in ICT services, India is pretty much, if you look at individual countries, India is a leader, and that makes you proud. So that's a good thing. Ever since probably before the 2000 Y2K bug, that really shot the Indian IT industry and the IT-enabled services industry into prominence, and India has not looked back since then. So that's great. And then you've got, so these, of course, like I said, this is the new reincarnated services, right? These are not your traditional services that have been going around. Skill India, I think, is a great and timely initiative. It's a great beginning. And I'd like to just add a little bit to that, the challenges ahead. One of the things that's a challenge is proprietary service protocols. And this is something that's been happening because of intellectual property right considerations. I'll give you an example. Manufacturers are trying to restrict the right to repair. And this has been a very big hot button issue in the US because John Deere, the tractor manufacturer, is trying to restrict people's right to repair their tractors on their own. Okay. And if anybody owns a Mercedes-Benz car, I drive a Toyota, I can go to any mechanic to get my oil changed. And one of my colleagues drives a Mercedes-Benz. He has to go to a Mercedes-Benz dealership and authorized repair shop to get his oil change. And of course, they charge a lot more. Right? So what does this mean? This means that the right to provide services is being restricted by proprietary service protocols. And this represents a threat to the independent service sector economy. Okay, so if you buy something and you can't get it repaired by your neighborhood electrician for cheap, you only have to go to the authorized, repair shop, or you have to go back to the company. Then that is not a good model especially for a developing country like India, because that will really affect the affordability of ownership of that product. Service capability building is absolutely essential and necessary, and I think Skill India is a right move in that direction. Is you've got to have scalability, and it's not like we haven't had service education and training. Okay, the old model was that you really didn't get into, how did you learn to become a darzi? How did a person become a darzi? There was no school for tailoring, really, right? So they started off as a helper at a darzi shop. They did menial jobs first, and as they got experience, they got to, they were given more and more responsibility. There was no formal training; it was by observation and learning from the guru and the ustad. Now that was a model that has served us well, and the whole Gurukul model, of course, also is very similar. The problem is that it's not scalable. Okay, so it can only produce a famous Sangeet Vidwan could only have so many students at one time. Okay, now, which is fine for an art, maybe. Okay, but that the scalability has to be built into the system because the scope of the economy is very different, right? Since the economy is expanding in scope, you've got to have that scalability. Ensuring contemporaneity and reskilling. Now, what do I mean by this? Like I said, those of you who had whose parents or yourselves own ambassador cars, that ambassador model didn't change for decades, right? So once you learned to become a mechanic on an ambassador, that was the only thing you needed to do the rest of your life. Now, what's happening with cars today? Models are changing, right? And you can't just show up with a pana and screwdriver and fix anything, right? I used to own a Bajaj a scooter, and a lot of minor things I could do myself, right? And those that I couldn't do myself, I just went to the local shop, and some guy with a pana and plier and things like that, they would fix it. Now that's not possible in your super bikes and your modern cars. So reskilling is important because the skill set becomes obsolete. Okay, the actual physical, and I'll touch upon that in a moment. Quality assurance is important. Okay, the in the Gurukul system or in the Vidwan system, you were not let out to have your own concert until you met the satisfaction level of the guru or the ustad. Right. So if you're a musician, you were learning music, you'd have to reach a certain level of proficiency before you could have your arangetram, or you were let out to practice by yourself. And all this points to the opportunities for a partnership between industry, academia, civil society, government. Without all these actors being involved, as you're trying to do, Dr. Sharma, this enterprise is not going to be successful. So let's take a look at quality assurance, education, and training. And I've split it up for a certain reason. Okay, education, I would like to focus on higher level problem solving skills. So if you teach a person that wants to be a mechanic on how to diagnose car problems, okay, and the mechanic and the theory behind it and so forth, he or she will be able to use that irrespective of which model they're working on. Right? Now, training is that, okay, once you grasp those skills, then you maybe become certified in repairing Honda cars or Toyota cars or Mercedes cars and so forth. So that's the distinction I'm making between education and training. Training is likely to be subject to obsolescence as the products related to it become obsolete. So think of the parallel like the programmer, right? You first learn logic and programming skills and so forth. Now, once you've learned those, I learned my programming skills on BASIC and COBOL. Okay, now having got that, I'm pretty sure if I tried, and later I got into C, and I'm pretty sure with those, that education, I can probably learn Python and R and so forth if I needed to make the effort. So that's the distinction I'm making. Okay, you need to have not just the training, which is more of a lower order mechanical aptitude issue, but also the higher order and problem solving skills. Certification gives certification and licensure give a mark of approval. Okay, so this again, the fact that your dance guru thinks that you're ready for your Arangetram is a certification, right? So now we have, of course, paper certificates. We have licensure, and again, these are good for going across economies, good for export. And I remember those jobs that I was talking to you about in the Middle East, which have been around for many years. People would go to these institutes and get certificates in air conditioning or, heating or whatever, and they would be required to show those. So even though your local mechanic might hire you without a certificate, if you want a job in Dubai or Kuwait or something, you would have to provide a certificate, showing that you have that. Licensure, I think we need to move towards that because there's got to be some regulation, I think, as the industry expands. And the reason being, not that I'm in favor of regulation, but I'm more in favor of protection of consumer interests. Okay, so we want to make sure that competence is licensed with an appropriate testing, so that not if you have a car that costs 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, you don't want to just trust it to anybody. So you don't want to just so you want to make sure that they've got certification, licensing, or definitely in service industries like health, you want licensure. And we've had licensure, we've had certification and we've had licensure. You cannot practice medicine without that those licenses, and that kind of logic should extend to other services as well. So in conclusion, I hope I haven't taken too much time. There are emerging threats and opportunities. There is a need for significant investments, far-sighted thinking, and actually strategic investments in this sector to ensure that it becomes a economic powerhouse as it should in the future. So that's my conclusion. And if anybody has questions, we can deal with them now, or feel free to note down my email address and I'd be happy to respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would request Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji to take on, please.
Yeah, now one thing, when we talk of quality in services, we talk about 3 levels of quality also. We have something that is search quality, for example, location or the timing, hours of operation. Those can be easily done searching on Google. Then we also have something called experience quality, where, you go to a restaurant, the quality of the food, unless you go to the restaurant, you can't really predict. So at least you have to go, or the bedside manner of a dentist. Unless you have had one encounter in that service, you don't know how it is. And then there's also something called as a credence quality, which, it's hard to, is my doctor well qualified? How am I supposed to know? I mean, I can't get that. So that is where the value of certification comes in. You get that assurance that there is a certain body of knowledge that the person has mastered. So that's something I wanted to add, and to just kind of, and I think Professor Irfan has provided a wonderful journey through the history of services and quality, and brought it to where we think we need it. Can we, and Dr. Sharma, my goal is, can we work on some joint white paper or some kind of a document where we articulate the need for certification, especially in all of these 12 sectoral areas. And if that is an area where some of us who have been doing teaching and research in this area can help your chamber. So that's an open offer I'm making to you, sir, because a policy making body like yours, which has had good success in terms of lobbying for these parity status for services and industry production or manufacturing. The next thing for you is to see how we can bring in certifications and licensures, and if we can help you there, we would be happy. And again, this is more of an academic interest for us, because as business professors, we want to make an impact. We want to have an impact on the industry, and this is really where I think there is an opportunity. But otherwise, a one-day fantastic voyage through the history of services, and it was very fascinating to listen to the history of some of these craftsmen, the Kalaiwala and all. I think that is very fascinating. And so again, Irfan has been an ad maker. He has an abiding interest in films and entertainment too. So he himself is an entertainer per se, and he also has an interest in photography. So we could, we could do another session on some of these nights. But that's about my reflection, sir. I want to open it to you, Dr. Sharma. Please ask some questions, especially the ones the audience is asking.
Thank you very much. First of all, my deep gratitudes and thanks to Professor Irfan Ahmed. It was right from his heart, which he basically gave. And for a while, I moved on to those Kalaiwalas and, Janjeer and all those places. That was something, after a long time, we just got back onto that. That was something very fascinating and right from the heart. Now, I've got a few things to share, and what Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji was mentioning right now. My biggest challenge at this point of time is that quality, quantity, and speed. I've got to take on 3 things. If I want to see India doing very well, I need quality, I need quantity, and I need basically speed. These 3 things are very important. Now, I think the base, anything which we can take on, we can build any building and all if the foundation is strong. And for that matter, I treat in a very humble way that once we are talking about education-related services, particularly during this pandemic, I do not know when we will start calling it post-pandemic, because nobody knows that whether the 3rd wave is coming or 4th wave is coming, what is happening and all that. My biggest challenge over here is that I want to reach the last person, the remotest village, the far-flung areas, which are non-accessible 6 months in a year because of the harsh weather conditions. Because I still recall, we are planning to make a movie for a girl because 52 or 53,000 children have gone from my hands in last 27 years. And the best part is I believe in free education, no money to be charged from anybody. Whatever government policies are there, try and make use of that. Even if its government is giving you peanuts and giving you less, no problems, no difficulty. Let's accept that. And wholeheartedly what you can do on that. मुझे एक सेंटेंस बड़ा अच्छा याद आता है, मूवी तो मुझे याद नहीं है, अजय देवगन का था, पता नहीं क्या है कि मेरे ज़मीर में पता नहीं क्या है क्योंकि मेरी ज़रूरतें कम हैं, something like there was a sentence, I don't know. Shetty's movie was there and it was a wonderful movie. So no, your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
I think I have some idea. मेरे
ज़मीर में दम है क्योंकि मेरी ज़रूरतें कम है. मेरे ज़मीर में दम है क्योंकि मेरी ज़रूरतें कम है. That is the sentence. Now you help me. Thank you very much. Now what I wish to share over here is that I'm a very different kind of a defense personnel. I've never gone to club. I don't drink. I'm a vegetarian. No socializing, no wastage of time anywhere unnecessarily. If you want to talk to me, talk something which can empower the humanity, universe, global. Nothing else, no other desire, no other desire. Nobody's enemy, nobody's friend, everybody's friend, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Now over here, my challenge is, I need your help. And that's what I keep telling Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji also. And I'm repeating on this platform also so that audience are also clear and we are also very clear. I don't need a single rupee donation from any non-resident Indian. Not a single rupee is required from any brother or sister across the globe. If you can do something, let's empower the education ecosystem in India. किसी को एक दिन फिश नहीं पकड़ाना है, 2 दिन नहीं पकड़ाना है, उसको फिशिंग करना सिखा देना है. I think the challenge, and that's why I told you, day and night I think about it, our challenge is quality, quantity and speed. Because we cannot say कि 30 साल में हो जाएगा, 40 साल में हो जाएगा. I'm very happy that some of the people are doing wonderful job. Some of the NGOs are doing extremely brilliant job. आप उस घर के बारे में सोचिए कोरोना के टाइम में, जिसमें दोनों में से एक कमाता है, वो भी घर पे बैठ गया, वो काम पे जा नहीं रहा. 3 बच्चे हैं आगे, तीनों बच्चों को पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, मन की बहुत इच्छा है, घर में एक ही मोबाइल फोन है, तीनों की क्लास एक ही टाइम में लगती है. किसको मोबाइल दें और किसको मोबाइल ना दें, किसको पढ़ाएं और किसको ना पढ़ाएं. एंड I learned with a lot of pain that a lot of girls are going to drop out post-pandemic, from schools, institutions. I do not know what to do, how to do, which way to do. I'm ready to render any kind of a service because I have dedicated myself to the human service. And for that matter, 24 hours, 24/7, anytime, anyway, I'm looking forward to innovative pedagogies. I'm not interested about traditional pedagogies because Sir Ken Robinson, I think his famous thing was, do schools kill creativity? That was the most important thing he used to discuss. And Dr. Sugata Mitra also proved it to us. There are many other people when I have been going abroad, teaching in different countries, different continents. I wish to pick up over here. If we really want to serve the humanity, somehow we should work out a strategy. And Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan also, हम सब लोगों को इकट्ठे एक ऐसा कॉन्फ्लुएंस बना दें, आपको मेरे पास ना आना पड़े, मुझे आपके पास ना जाना पड़े, विवेक शंकर जी को ट्रैवल ना करना पड़े, आप डिजिटल वे में कीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. हम कुछ ऐसा कर दें कि डिजिटल माध्यम से, आई थिंक दिस कोरोना हैज ओपन न्यू चैप्टर्स. Education is more accountable. Education is more transparent. Education is more blended. education is more flip learn, blended learning, outside learning. पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के, it has brought Gurukul more near to anything. I'm more happy on that. There is no problem. I'm not looking forward to a 5-star treatment. मेरे को उस 5-star होटल से लेके क्या करना है जहां डॉक्टर अच्छा नहीं है. I'm not interested about that. I am interested about, can we help those children and can we do the hand holding? If some of us, we think together and we plan together, कुछ ऐसा करें इरफान जी कि जहां पर उन बच्चों तक पहुंच जाएं कि जिनके माँ बाप उनको शिक्षा नहीं दिलवा सकते. I personally feel lot of peace will come to the world, lot of happiness will come to the world. All the destruction and the greed to geopolitically, the imbalances what we are talking about, जिस दिन आप education से सबको empower कर देंगे, I think half the problem of the world will get over. There are a lot of questions which people have asked. I will just go through so that you get an idea. That was my basically a take on to that. Julie ma'am is writing from Manipur. Traditional occupation reskilling, manufacturing sector equal at par to the services sector. Great inputs added. And then there is a question, instead of introducing new skills, if the traditional skills are promoted and reskilling is done, much better. Then there's another one, Colonel Casey Mannon. Very interesting insight. Many local businesses have simply vanished. Reskilling is the challenge and the urgent need of the hour. Vidhi Kishore ma'am from Yamunanagar. Then another Julie ji. Then Professor Dr. Tejinder ji. He is the founder president of there's the Association for Commerce and Management in entire Haryana. And he says traditional lifestyle was sustainable. Even we shifted to consumerism, it became unsustainable. Need to revisit basic values, lifestyles, and skill set with modern framework. And there's another lady who joined, who got the award and the reward and the MBA scholarship for MBA the other day when Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji announced. She is asking, sir, I would like to know the future of tourism, hospitality and media entertainment industry post-pandemic. How can we cope up with the present situation? So these are a couple of things. There are so many, but I would say all up to you, whatever you would like to take on, depending on the time factor.
Well, yeah, I think reskilling is definitely necessary. Again, the thing is, there are all these challenges, and some skill discontinuity will be there. As I mentioned, you cannot expect somebody who's, in the mid-30s, 40s, 50s to suddenly move occupations. That's a myth that's created by, short-sighted policy sometimes, that you can shift from sector to sector easily. It's very disruptive to human life. It places a lot of demand on the system, which is very often does not meet the challenge. I think so. I just took the opportunity to say hello to Dr. Tejinder Sharma, and thank you for listening. Yes, I think we need to have sustainability in our mind, and there are going to be conflicts. So it's going to be not a these balanced scorecard and all that. Some of these things are a little bit not well thought out in terms of when it actually gets down to brass tacks. There's going to be conflict, so we will have to resolve those conflicts. And the last question, ma'am. It's at this point, I don't think anybody can really predict, how things will be post-pandemic. What is happening, of course, is that humanity is actually pretty good at adaptation. So we will find ways of adapting, and we will find ways of getting over it. I would say optimism is the key.
Optimism is the key.
Dr.
Okay.
Vivek, would you like to add? It's very hard
Yes.
to,
Yes.
under the circumstances,
yes.
Sometimes it becomes depressing, and but I'm very confident of humanity's response and adaptation to circumstances.
Great.
Dr. Vivek, you want to add something?
Yeah, actually, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and any crisis also creates many opportunities. So I kind of go back to the metaphor of the forest fires. They rage and they destroy the forests, but it also turns out that when you destroy all that surplus wood, there's a lot of rejuvenation of young trees that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we have to start looking at what is the next post-corona generation going to be, and what opportunity it comes. And so, as they say, we have to live to fight another day. First, I hope everybody gets vaccinated and gets through this mutations like Delta variants and all that. But once that happens, I think people will start to feel gratitude for having survived such a calamity, that they may want to start looking at life in a much more positive way. And what happens is that will also mean, the economists talk of the animal spirits in the economy, but where does that come from? It comes from the consumers, and they're wanting to consume and going back to enjoying life, and that will spur economic activity. But in what sectors? And this may also be a good opportunity to go back to more sustainable kind of production, sustainable kind of a consumption. It might also lead to more ethical consumption. These are all the potential directions. I hope the future will herald. But again, hindsight is 2020, and we are still in 2021, and Corona is still on our plates, and Delta variant is happening. So to that extent, I think I don't know. You're right. The optimism is the key. And I go back to the forest fire metaphor, rejuvenation. How is the rejuvenation going to happen? And how will that take off? That's what we have to see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So my deep gratitudes and thanks to today's distinguished guest, Professor Irfan Ahmed ji, and of course, our advisor, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji. It was a very, very meaningful deliberations which we all had. There's a lot takeaway, and we are going to work on to that. And somebody from the BB Subba Foundation, from the entire Northeast, from the all 8 states, they are writing the last sentence: opportunity should come to all. Opportunities should come to all. And that's what we are requesting. No more construction of buildings, no more construction of indoor classrooms. Let's have more digital highways. Let's have the basic devices for everybody. Let's make sure that we provide basic connectivity for every region, every nook and corner, because there's a plenty of information available. And sometimes I wonder, in a services being rendered, why, even if I take one subject, let's take physics, chemistry, bio, mathematics or tourism or any subject you take it. World over, how many countries are there? How many people are there? How many people are teaching? Why don't we collaborate in such a way, in a wonderful way? School strata is there, college strata is there, university strata is there, and we all collaborate with each other instead of repeating same topic, same subject again and again in different countries. Why not to come out with something as a collaborative confluence and something innovative and new? Because today on the YouTube, on the TEDx talks, you don't require knowledge. Knowledge is in plenty. The only thing is application of that knowledge in a right perspective, in a right packaging, in a right proportion, at a right time, in the right direction, for the right audience. That is what is the need of the hour, which we all have to take on. Look at the Zoom. Nobody knew that there was something known as Zoom. People knew about Google, they knew about Microsoft, people knew, some of them, those are in industry, Cisco, but everybody was not knowing Cisco as well. But the Zoom, I think hardly 1% people, they knew that there's something known as, I personally feel not even 1% people knew. But today—
I didn't know until we had to move to online teaching in March of last year.
Yes, I'm telling you, and today it's a Zoom. And everybody is telling, and somebody gave me a call from Malaysia. He says, Dada, both Zoom ho raha hai, pura din Zoom ho raha hai. So, what I'm talking about is, and today, EdTech platforms, nobody thought of. It's a mind-blowing. I had a panel discussion of 5 top edtech platforms of the world. They were pinching themselves. They said, we didn't know that what we are going to do. And today they are skyrocketing. And they say we are not in a position even to meet the demand of those contents which are needed, because everybody is looking forward to edtech platforms. And we all got to understand education will never, ever go back to what it used to be in January, February 2020. We got to look ahead. We got to look better. And I'm very happy when I make this particular statement. During this corona, the new education policy for India has come. It has come in the most difficult thick of the pandemic on 29th of July last year. And secondly, education has become transparent and accountable, because parents are sitting next to the children at home and they are watching what is being taught, which way it is being taught, and what exactly is going to be meaningful, whatsoever is being taught. I think whatsoever happens, it happens for the good. Let's move in a very positive way. And of course, rightly mentioned by Professor Ahmed ji, that services are everywhere and the quality of services do matter. When you do not get your expected services, then the turbulences and a lot of things rolls inside your mind, stomach, body, cerebrum, wherever it is. So services is today and services is tomorrow. And agriculture and manufacturing, both the components of GDP, are also going to be further multiplied with services, manifold, many ways. A lot of work we are doing on that. And finally, I'm just sharing something on a lighter note. When Vivek Shankarji mentioned that you are interested about media entertainment industry also, we are doing a lot of research on cinematic tourism. When the tourism has taken a backseat now, why don't we give the subsidies to all the filmmakers within the country, domestic tourism, and let there be a Bollywood tourism, Tollywood tourism, Bollywood tourism, whatever you talk about, and let's develop something where the subsidies and handholding is given to media entertainment industry. Our chamber has done a lot of research on cinematic tourism, and we have done the comparative studies of various countries, because we have done practical part. When we took Krish 1 to Singapore, there was a 13% tourist traffic increase from India to Singapore as an inbound tourism for them. Similar way, New Zealand, Kaho Na Pyar Hai, couple of other countries. Nobody was knowing South Korea. But when the gangster movie was made over there of Kangana Ranaut, everybody came to know, wow, these are also the locations which can be promoted. Yash Chopra ji's name, today everybody knows in Switzerland, because there is a lake on the name of Yash Chopra ji. And our chairman, our chamber's chairman for media entertainment industry, he was cinematographer for all those movies. Dil To Pagal Hai, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, Lame, Chandni, Mohabbatein, all the movies which have been shot abroad in Switzerland. Our chairman that time was a right hand of Yash Chopra ji for making all those movies from the lens. And he tells me, just one visiting card, and with the visiting card, you could do a shooting in entire Switzerland anywhere. That is the way they were given the treatment. So cinematic tourism also holds a lot of potential. Vivek ji, closing remarks with the prayer from your side.
No, actually, आपने Switzerland के बारे में बताया. You talked about Switzerland, and I visited. There are three or four cities, but I visited Jean-Trois and of course Interlaken, and then. So all those places, and I think it was one of those places. If you remember where the James Bond movie was shot, I think it's Mount Pilatus, I guess, not Mount Titlis, but I think Mount Pilatus. So anyway, you go there, and all the menu is basically they have an Indian menu there. So Shahi Paneer, and they have something named after Shah Rukh Khan and S. Chopra. Even the menu, of course, the menu also was pricey. So, but we had so sitting on the Switzerland mountains, we had. Some of those Indian menu. Of course, it was very interesting. So you're right, the cinema industry, and आपने देखा होगा यश चोपड़ा movie के जो झरना होता है, I've seen all that. I mean, it's very, very nice. But Switzerland has done a very marvelous job, and people look at all the beauty, but behind the beauty is the German and Switzerland, their attention to detail, their trains and buses and everything runs on a schedule. Everything was well mapped out. Without a car, I was able to travel from in a lot of places in Switzerland just with one ticket, and we could go Swiss pass leke hum pura Switzerland guma, and we had such a wonderful time. We were walking, taking the bus, train, everything, and everything was running on time. So that was, again, you come back to service quality. So people look at the mountains, they look at the great views, sure. But for something like that to happen, you need quality, and service quality is all very important. So that is where I think it's important we focus more attention. And again, I've already made my point. We are welcome to work with you in an academic way, in writing some case studies, white papers. So we will take this engagement further. And I want to thank my good friend Irfan Ahmed. Very nice, presentation. Very nice overview. And Irfan, don't be this is. Take this as a rain check. We will try to get you back again. I'm making this with Gulshanji's approval, I guess. We will try to get you back again. Maybe we will have another reflection on some other topics. I think we need to definitely get you back, and it was really helpful. So with that, let me conclude with a prayer. Yeah, if you unless you want to make any concluding remarks, and then
no,
I'll
that's
make
fine.
my
Go
final
ahead.
remarks.
Yeah, I think we've
thank
long
you.
enough.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Irfan. It was really good, and thank you for building all this nostalgia back. So I think you should probably make a smart art film or something like that on that topic. So with that, let me conclude with a prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhagavad. Om shanti shanti shanti. Thank you very much, Gulshanji. Thank you very much, Dr. Irfan Ahmed. Thank you for all the viewers. It was wonderful. So I guess next week we will have a new theme, and Gulshanji will let's chat up sometime later.
Thank you very much.
Gulshanji.
Thanks.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Very kind of you. And ladies and gentlemen, those are watching abroad, green morning, green afternoon, green evening, something very interesting. It is for the first time in the history of India, 1947 onwards, for the first time in India, that the tourism minister and the culture minister of India is also taking a charge of the northeast part of India. All the 8 states of Northeast has been given to him. That is under the Act East policy, and all the untapped potential of those youth. When you talk about the art, the craft, the culture, the cuisine, the dances, the music, the energy, the flavor, and whatsoever that region offers. And finally, when we talk about the environment protection, can you imagine when the Ministry of Ayush has been established in India, the maximum plantation of the herbal plants in India is in the northeast part of India. When you talk about the green cover of India. So I wish to close this with the remarks that we are grateful to all our brothers and sisters, those who have joined us across the world, and all the youngsters. Stay fit, stay fine, stay healthy. Take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of everybody. And we got to develop the community once again, what has been shown in a beautiful packaging by Professor Irfan Ahmed this evening in his wonderful presentation. Thank you very much to both